We're coming out of the gate here. We're going to start our walk. So I had her sit first. I always have her sit before I open the gate. Okay, sit. I'm going to have her sit a little closer to the entrance so you can see her clearly. Got to hold this gate shut or else it'll close on her. I'm always having her stop and wait at every boundary. Doorways is exactly what I did with my front door. We don't have to show that to you, but it's the same thing. Have her sit, open the door, because when you open the door, it prompts the dog or triggers the dog to get up more easily. So I always practice the hardest way possible. So when the door opens, she'll stay in a sit now. And I step through first, like you saw me just do. And the reason I do that, and she stays there in a sit stay, the reason I do that is to accentuate the fact that this boundary is mine, not hers. And you want to keep doing that. It's just a great way to develop some more focus in the dog, because they're way more likely to chase you through a boundary when you step through. But if they get used to you going through first and waiting there, and then they never go through it until you come back, and really they never go through it unless you're next to them or they're next to you and they hear that command, okay. And if they pull, like a lot of dogs pull, she's not pulling anymore, but I'll even stop at the threshold to make sure they really get it, that it's going to be a calm walkthrough. On the other side, it's sit and then go, and now the walk starts. But I always make sure that I do, that calm boundary training thing, which could take you all of 10 seconds, 15 seconds maybe. But if you're doing it gateways, doorways, curbs throughout the day, you have to go through those boundaries anyway with her. So why not take an extra 15 seconds and do that exercise everywhere? You've got the sit stay there, and you've got her being calm and focused. So it's just a great little exercise to do that anybody can do. Also, after a few weeks, she can't remember ever doing anything else. So the likelihood over time of her ever bolting out a doorway or a gateway or across the street is way less, because she just doesn't do it anymore, because she's used to sitting and waiting and being calm and not going across unless she's next to you. Okay, we've been taking a walk, and I'm going to cross the street, and I'm going to show you what we do every time we cross the street. First, I'm going to say, if she's staring at me, I'm going to create a distraction. Call her away from it. Come. Good. Get her back on the clock, so to speak. Walk her up to, okay, sit. You saw I stepped into her on my left. Walked her up to the curb, had her sit. We always practice this boundary exercise at all curbs. Whenever I have an opportunity to practice at a boundary, and curbs are a very important boundary, I'm always going to do this little boundary training exercise where I practice the sit stay. She's really used to stopping at every curb, focusing, thinking. I mean, that's what she's doing. She has to stay in a sit stay. And then walking across the street, and you're going to have to go there to show me walk across the street. Okay, in what I would call training mode, loose leash, not pulling me, because between curb to curb, it's where I practice calm behavior, not pulling. And then on the other side, once we hit the other sidewalk, sit and go. Release her on the other side. And then most of our walk is going to be free time, where I'm just letting her do whatever she wants. The walk should be a fun little thing that we do together. There's not a bunch of, dog training stuff on the walk, like walking next to me and doing, like we're in a dog show or something. So I let her have her freedom. She gets to sniff and pee and do whatever she wants. If, every once in a while I want to practice, if she's sniffing something, I don't know what it is, I'm going to use my come command. Good, to get her away from there, so there's no leave it. You're not like correcting her, making funny noises so that she drops something or whatever. Just practice the come command. She's going to turn her back on whatever it is. She's going to come running back to you, and you get to practice your come command. And you practice it all the time. That's your go-to command, really. She's running out in the street, she's gonna mess with something that maybe is not good for her, or some half-eaten food on the street, or whatever it is. Call her away from it. Her come command keeps getting better. It's so much easier than, yelling distraction words and making funny noises or whatever. So that's what I'm doing on the street. On walks, the leash is always loose. If she were to be pulling me, I would be tapping and releasing, and she's just on her regular buckle collar that has her tags on it. I don't use any special collar, just a 6-foot leash. It's really all about how you handle the leash. So you're tapping and releasing. You're never tightening up and you're never controlling, because tension on the leash like this actually creates pulling. If you exert tension on the leash, the dog pulls away from it, pulls against it, so that actually causes pulling. So if she's pulling a lot for some reason, that would probably happen in the very beginning of the walk when she's really excited. Just go out your door and do 5 or 6 of these. Come. Good. And you're walking along, and then come. Good. A little bit farther. Come. It's a great antidote. Good for come. Calm the dog down really quickly, just kind of getting rid of that pulling. And you see, she's not doing any of that with me now because we've had her for a while. This is after doing that every day for a number of weeks. So over time, you won't even have to do that anymore. But I'm thinking once she's back with you and I'm not around, she may go back to doing some of the things she did with you before. So that's a great way to get her to just stop pulling and get calmer in the very beginning of a walk. Also, you're going to be stopping at the front door, doing the boundary exercise, just like what we did at the curb. And also any gateways you have, you do it at gateways as well. So every time that you have her, I thought she might pull me, but she's not. Every time that you have her, you're walking her and going through any kind of boundary, do that exercise. And maybe it's not walking around her, but it's just stepping out first to accentuate the fact that that's your boundary, not hers. And then she waits till you come back and she only walks through with you. And we'll show you some of those later on as well. Okay. We walk Jazzy up to the mat, we have her sit, we're gonna send her to the mat, I'm gonna pat her chest with my right hand. I'm not holding her tight, she's really sitting there. If she were to pop up, because she really wants to go there, so if she were to jump the gun, anticipate what I was about to do and go before I released her, I would just tap her and say no, and she would go back into a sit. So the leash is loose, she's waiting, go to your mat, and then down. And I'm going to get her a little bit more centered on the mat, so I'm going to lure her over there. We have this dog, good. We have this dog behind us that's really out of control, and that's why we picked her, just so we can show you how she can stay in a down, being in the presence of a dog that's out of control, because your problem was she was getting too excited with your other dog and other dogs, and she was uncontrollable. So we practiced a lot of down stays and calmness exercises in the presence of dogs that weren't calm. So we're just showing you how far she's gotten at this point. So go ahead and walk her around, and I'm going to reward her when she looks at me, like now. Good. And her goal for her is to just stay in a down stay and pay attention to me and not jump up. Good. So, nope. Good. Just walk around. Keep walking around. So she's going really nuts. And Jazzy, good, is staying calm on the mat. Go around this way now. And we'll just, I don't want to torture Jazzy. This is actually stressful to me because barking so loud, but just, I think we proved our point. We can do the mat exercise, keep her in a down stay. Well, yeah, I'm using some doggy treats, but, you know, I'm rewarding her in a situation that's really difficult, and good. Why not? She deserves it. This is not be easy for any dog. Keep going around. It would not be easy for any dog that had her issue, which is to, her issue was good, to being very easily overstimulated and out of control around other dogs. So, there you go. Okay. Good. So we are sticking with, you can take her back. We're sticking with the rules of doing the mat exercise, and of course we do this mat exercise every day in the presence of all kinds of different distractions. Sometimes it's me just putting her in my yard and walking out the gate and coming back. That's way easier than this. I just chose to put the hardest thing that I have been practicing with her on film for you. But basically, you know, if you are if you're in your house or in your yard, fenced yard, you can drop the leash. I'm going to step on the leash because we're not, but you can drop the leash and walk away and come back. She'll be on the mat. You can go inside, close the door and come back. If you're inside, you can go outside, close the door and come back. So we've been practicing on this mat with in all those different combinations. And of course, whenever you come back and she stays there, you're going to reward her. You see the way I'm doing it. You're just going to set it on the mat in front of her. If she tries to touch your hand or take the food out of your hand before you, the reward out of your hand before you let go of it, you pull back and say no. She's waiting right now. Good. She waits until you withdraw. She takes it off the mat and you say good. If she pops up before you release her, you say no. Like if she pops up, if she were to stand up, you say no. Just do that, stand on the leash. I pivot on my right foot and stand with my left, and she'll go back. And then you continue the exercise. If she, there's a lot going on around here today. If she were to just jump off the mat and totally break out of it, and let's pretend she did, okay, sit. I'm going to release her. Go. So let's pretend that she got distracted, completely lost her downstay. You'd say no. And you'd step into her like this. Okay, come on. Do your little circle there. Just exactly what I just did. Step into her, do your circle. Your left foot just puts her back down. You already said down once when you first put her on the mat. The goal is that she only hears the command once, and if she's going to stay there for 5 minutes, she stays there for 5 minutes. So say it once, gently but firmly reinforce that first command, and you'll have increasingly longer down stays and sit stays. Never repeat the command. So since she's not off leash trained yet, because that's a very high level of training, of course, the dog doesn't make a mistake anymore, really. So you don't need a leash. So she's not quite there, of course. Nope. See? There was a piece of cheese on the ground, so she wanted to get it. So you see how I put her back. I said no, and I put her back. So you're going to practice with a leash so that you never have to repeat the command, because then you can gently but firmly reinforce that first time you said it, and she gets used to doing it and only ever hearing the command once. So it's so much about saying less. And I think it's doing less as well. There's a minimum of hand signals and funny noises, and we're trying to not do much of that. And I'm going to reward her one more time. Nope. Nope. Because she tried to touch my hand there. Now she's waiting. Good. And now I'm going to show you how to take her off the mat. When you're done with the exercise, this is the only way she comes off the mat. She waits for you to come back next to her, pat your leg and say, okay. Lead her off the mat, have her sit. And then you always release her from a calm sit stay. If she's on your left, use your right hand. Go. Pat her chest and say go, and she's free. Always pick up this mat, because she's going to want to go hang out on it. It's a very exclusive spot. It has a lot more power. You get a much better downstay out of her if she only goes on there with your permission, and she only comes off with your permission. So when you're going to use it, have it put away before you use it. Make sure that she's on a leash and that she doesn't get to run across it or hang out on it. It's not a doggy bed. It's only for this one purpose. Doggy bed is something else that she can have, and that's, she can come and go as she pleases from a doggy bed. But this is the magic mat. This is for only one thing, like what you saw me do here with her. And it's very powerful and teaches her a rock solid downstay if you practice it the way I just showed you. We are going to walk around this corner, and I've been told there's a dog over there, and you're going to see, I'm just going to practice the come command. Not that she has a big problem with dogs on the street, but just to show you how the come command works in the heat of the moment. So we're going to walk around the corner. Oh, there's a dog there. It's a very well-behaved dog. She looks at that dog. Come! I think she used to bark at some dogs on the street, something like that. But anyway, she's not now, obviously. She doesn't know this dog. Come! And I'm just practicing calling her away. You see how I'm backing away every time I say the command? When you back away, the dog is drawn to you. Yeah, just have him walk around, maybe walk this way, back and forth. Don't walk towards us, but just so he moves. Come! She is mildly interested in him. Good. You see how I've got the looper on my left hand. I use the right hand to just reach my pouch for a little reward. It's a closed target hand so I'll do it with no treats, because Come, in emergency, if you don't have a treat. Good girl, good. She'll still come to this target because you practiced with rewards when you were practicing. When you don't have a reward, she doesn't know it's empty. She's going to come running to this. And if there's no leash and no reward, it's a real emergency. It will work because of how you practice. So always call her to that close target and always back away, because when you back away, it draws the dog to run to you. And if you practice that way all the time, and then you have a situation where your back is to a wall or something, she'll still run to you because that's the way you practice. So whenever you can back away, you do. One more time. Come. Good. And notice the last little thing. I have the leash. It's my reward hand, but I have the leash kind of going through my finger, the last two fingers like this, because as she comes to me, it's a way to manage the leash. Good. See, I have the leash. I draw it with my left hand through there, and then I have it. I don't have to do this if she comes to me or mess with the leash. It's all right there. Her nose touches this. I open it. She gets the treat, and I have the leash. So there I just did it a number of times. And you saw how it's done, and I've easily called her to me 1,000 times since she's been here. So if you keep doing it, she just gets better and better. Do it exactly like this. Don't wait for her to get excited or to pull. As soon as she sees whatever the distraction is, you're literally plugging in the appropriate response, which is to turn her back on whatever it is and come running back to you, instead of there's an inappropriate response, which I didn't expect. She barked, come. Good. So she's getting really good. Even when there is something that gets her excited, you plug in that command and it still works. And so I was standing there just letting her stare. So staring, and God forbid, leash tension. Staring plus leash tension creates aggression in a dog. It can easily create aggression in a dog, and I think it would in her maybe. So make sure that you call her to come before anything starts. So what I was saying was you plug in the appropriate response with the command before the inappropriate response erupts like it just did there. We're going to keep that on the tape because that's a perfect example of how you think a dog is not going to ever do anything anymore, and then they do if you're not paying attention. But that's the way to handle her in those situations, and that's how to practice the come command. Sit. Good. So that's the kind of sit that I have with her. And this is a basic sit stay where she accepts you walking around both ways, each time starting out in front of her. And then you can go back and give her a reward just like this. Make sure you put that reward by your face. She's staring at me in the eyes now because of where I have this. And then straight down. Good. Just like that. And to release her, there's two ways of moving on. One is if you're going to walk with her, you want her to walk with you, and you're not done with the training, it would be, okay. And then you're going to tap her if she tries to pull. Sit. If you're releasing her to be free, if you're done, you're going to pat her chest and you're going to say, go. Now she's free. Give her some free time. If she's not responding to the sit command right away, like she is with me, use the leash for a little while. Sit. It's just a little bit of tension at the very moment you say the command. So I'm not popping and jerking and hanging. It's not even rough. It's just a little bit of tension, continuous tension. It's not like trying it and giving up and trying it and giving up. It's just continuous tension. If she doesn't sit right away, hold that continuous tension. You're not choking her. Her butt will hit the ground most likely. She'll decide to sit, and then you release it immediately. So it's calm, it's gentle but firm. So why don't you do that for a while? Okay, sit. And then within a couple of days, even though we've done a lot of lessons at your house, still, if I'm not there, it may be different. So in a couple of days, I think if you're practicing the sit like that every time, you won't need it anymore, and you'll have the sit stay you see that I have here. Okay. just want to take a couple minutes just to make sure that you know how to practice the down stay and the sit stay. So if you're going to have her just out of the blue, and she's not expecting it, of course, do a down, I would suggest for a while that you do it this way. Down. Because you're not going to have an instantaneous down like I have with her, because you haven't practiced it as much as I have. So I suggest that you do that at least for a few days when you first get her back, because really it's all about the details here. If you help her down, and you saw I just eased her down very gently, but I did it at the very moment that I said the command, it might just be a couple of days and you won't have to do that anymore. But if you do the old-fashioned way, which is to say down, she ignores you, and then force her down, you'll get stuck in that pattern most likely forever. So in her mind, they say it, I ignore them, and they force me down. So I would just do it exactly the way I'm doing it now, because pretty quickly you will, pretty quickly you're going to have down. Good. So I have that because I practiced in the same way I just showed you. So, nope. Then you want to reward her. Good. Let's do another one of those. And the stay, it's just a basic down stay, is where she allows you walking around both ways with her. And then you always want to be careful that you reward her like this. Usually I'm right in front of her, but so you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to stand to the side. It's kind of swing in on her level. Nope. If she even tries to touch your hand or take the treat, you pull back and say no. She'll wait like this. Good. And then takes it off the ground or the mat, if you're using the mat, after you've withdrawn. She only gets up out of a down when you come back next to her. This is the only way she ever leaves a down stay. She waits for you to come back to get her. And by the way, we don't say stay. Obviously, stay is built into down, so you don't have to say stay. It's just down. She knows she's supposed to wait, no matter how long it takes, until you come back and release her. So you come back and stand next to her. You say, okay, she gets up. You walk with her. You have her sit. And then go. Pat her chest and release her like that. Sit. Just want to show you how we're putting her in the crate every day, taking her in and out of the crate. She goes in and out of the crate easily 6 times a day. So we always walk her up to the crate, we open the door, make sure that she doesn't go until you pat her chest and say, go, you send her in. And she likes to go in there because she turns around, she gets a little tidbit of some sort, some little treat. We hook up we unhook the leash, and then we close the door. At my house, she sleeps in here overnight. It's very comfortable. She gets her meals in here. She gets bones and chewies and things like that. Everything that is good happens in the crate. The crate obviously is never used for punishment, because we want her to love this, so you have a space that you can always put her in if you need to manage her for some reason or travel or something like that. We want her to love going in there. So we're always, before we even do anything, the hen comes in with a gift, so that she's always looking forward to hands coming in. So when we're taking her out, we always come in with a gift. We're always controlling this boundary. Just think of this as another boundary training exercise, and this is really the boundary that leads to her den, because dogs are naturally den animals, so she perceives this as her place in there. There's no training that's done inside, but we do control her access in and out of the crate, her den. So if you do that in the dog's eyes, you become more in charge, because if they need your permission to go in and out of their favorite place where they eat and they sleep, they get their favorite treats, then you must be pretty powerful. So she knows to wait. She doesn't come out until I give her the little command to come out, which is okay. She comes out, and then we have her sit. We'll take her through the house. If we're going to walk through doorways, we always have her sit at each doorway. And then the front door, we do the boundary training routine, and then go outside. You're always closing this door when she comes out, because basically it's always closed when she's in, and it's always closed when she's out. Go. I'm going to release her here. because they love the crate so much. If you leave it open and they're loose in the house, they'll just run back in there. If you leave it open, you squander your power of controlling that boundary all the time. So I would suggest that you keep it closed when she's out as well as in. It's easy to just leave it open because a lot of dogs will just run in and out, but there's no training there, so why not take an extra 10 seconds each time and control the boundary? Just another piece of the puzzle that adds to all the rest of the training, gives the dog more structure in their life, and changes their perception of you for the better by doing that. Okay.